Bryce. Welcome everybody. My name's Stephen Simon. At this farm here, this is Simon and Simon Sheep is the technical name of our farm. But we've raised sheep on this farm for 104 years. I am the 5th generation. My kids are the 6th generation on this farm. I guess in particular what you guys are here to see is my hydroponic sprouting unit that I sprout barley sprouts and then I feed that to the sheep. It's about 40% of their diet, and I save a lot of water, I save soil, I have a lot of conservation things go along with what we do in here. I'm actually on my goal is to get self-sustained. We live out here in an area where I have all dry land crops, there's no irrigation, so for me trying to grow an alfalfa or something with really high protein is a little more difficult. So I discovered barley sprouts about 11 years ago and started doing it on a small scale with a small system, and then about 8 years of doing it, got tired of that and I grew my flock to, we're about 1,700 ewes right now. So basically I had to have a lot more sprouts, so I designed a sprouting unit that allows me to actually feed that many sheep all out of this building here. In here, I used to have a system that was like a storage container unit, had about 7 rows, had all these trays in it and an air conditioning unit and sprayers and everything that basically grew these sprouts for me. I could grow about 1,000 pounds of sprouts a day in that old system, but it also took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day by the time I washed trays, reseeded it, and did everything for the day. So what I did is I've kind of redesigned this to the point where you'll see right now I'm actually built out halfway for what I'm going to be doing in this building. I've got 3 different racks. Those 3 racks represent a day in the future. Right now I've got it broke up. You'll see I've got 6 different plots of grass. So day 1, day 2 clear on that end, 3, 4, 5, and day 6. So that right there behind you on the ground, you guys can all look at that if you want to. That's what I pulled out this morning. I already fed this little patch right here to sheep this morning, and we reseeded it. So it's only a 6-day process to sprout from seed all the way to that. What's really nice about it is, for one, you're increasing the digestibility of the seed because you're going from a 40 to 45% TDN up to about an 80-85% digestibility. So a lot better on the gut. Cools off the acids and whatnot, especially in ruminants, really good. Also really good for horses. You'll see a lot of the barley sprouts being talked about in the horse industry, but that's because they got a different stomach, and so this type of feed's really good for that gut. Like I said, it's a real short 6-day process. What I've kind of done, what I like to call it is, I've kind of farmered the process. I didn't want to go fully automated. There are machines out there that have this in a shelf type system and it moves them around and washes them and does everything, but when I get one of these racks fully loaded, this represents about 10,000 pounds of feed. So if you want a machine that produces about 10,000 pounds of feed, it's going to probably cost you upwards of about $2 million just for that system. And then you're going to still have to put it in an environment where it's still controlled. So those get very costly. I kind of wanted the farmer mentality of, I want to scoop this out of here easy, throw it into my mixer, and all the animals still get the benefit, but I don't have to have all the fanciness to go with it. So I actually use my forklift that you see right there behind you. I just take it off my seed spreader and I just scoop this stuff out of here. If you look down, all the roots just grow together. They become basically a solid mat of basically just roots. And then, so that makes it easy to pull out of here because it becomes a nice mat. So then I can just, when I drive into it with my forklift, it just kind of tears wherever it wants to tear. I'm kind of working on a design where I can actually, it'll kind of slice it and roll it up and might make it a little bit easier. But for now, it's, I just scoop it out with that. I haul it over into that room right over there, pile it in there first thing in the morning, and whoever's mixing feed can just open that door and just scoop it out of there and it goes right into the mixer. and then I'm able to reset this for the next day. Right now it takes me about probably 45 minutes to an hour to basically do a section of this. So I've reduced the time from what it used to take me, and I can get, right now, like I said, this is about 3,000 pounds in this square. Each one's probably about 3,000 to 3,300 pounds, and so I've more than tripled production in this scenario. Right now we do graze sheep out on pasture and fields, so what you kind of see is this is a representation of how much feed I need right here on the place now for the sheep that I have here. So when I bring all the sheep home from the pasture here in about a couple months, here first part of October, they'll come home and we start lambing. Then I'll have to increase the size of these pads, and what I'll do is I'll increase it to about half the size of the rack, so then I'm getting about 5,000 pounds a day, and that takes care of my entire ewe flock. So this side of the building represents me growing from about 1,700 ewes up to 2,000 ewes, and I also want to start fattening lambs with it as well. So for now, all I've been concerned with this has been this half, because I'm still kind of designing and building and making sure that everything functions right before I just build everything out at once and realize I don't like it. But the hopes are is that the building's kind of growing with me. But the nice thing also is that the flexibility of the different racks and everything, like I said, I can make these pads bigger or smaller depending on what I have going on at the farm. And where it's a 6-day process, I just have to know a week ahead of time, hey, I want more sprouts next week. So that makes that pretty quick. This building, when it's fully up and going, would grow the equivalent of an entire section of alfalfa, and that would be a Kansas average alfalfa field. I use a K-State publication when I talk about that that statistic, but it'll produce, yeah, about exactly a section of alfalfa that I can grow on a quarter section the barley at about 70 bushel to the acre. If you look at dry land barley, so 70 bushel to the acre out here grows me enough seed on that quarter to run this place for an entire year. So I save 3/4 of a section of land that can now be used for something else, because it doesn't have to be planted for sheep feed. So it's a great land saving mechanism. The racks itself, they use very little water. These are all micro sprinklers. They put on, when this goes off, it goes off for a minute every 2 hours, and it'll put on, each rack will put on about 11 gallons. 11 gallons a minute, sorry, 11 gallons a minute. So during a day, you take the, 12 cycles times 11, so about 150 gallons or so will go onto this square under this rack. This entire building will use less water than the average American uses on their yard. So, except I'm going to feed 2,000 sheep and their lambs with that. So that excites me for the future of ag and growing and feed production, because that's just a statistic I can't step away from. But so very water conservative. The land savings comes in big. The other thing that's kind of good is by increasing the TDN on this, essentially what you do is you get an animal to use more of what it's eating. If it's using more of what it's eating, it's going to have less manure out the back end. In long terms, you're going to reduce greenhouse gas because you're going to have less manure and everything. So in a feedlot scenario, feeding something like this, you'd reduce your greenhouse gas and everything greatly. So and also when they eat this, they get some of their water through this as well too, because it's a very wet substance. As far as in the future and what I'd like to be able to do with this, it's live and it's grown live, so every day I got to feed it. So that means storing it is hard because it's wet. So what I've been working on is actually making this into a silage. That way I could actually store it in a bag and be able to keep it. Good timing on being here, guys. You got that every other hour sprinkler going off. So, yeah, so this one will go off in about 10 minutes. That one down there, that'll go off. So,
So you put 150 gallons of water per day on each pad?
well, it'd be this rack.
Oh, the whole rack?
On this rack, yep. So So yeah, in a minute it'll put down about 11 gallons of water. But as you can see, they're just micro sprinklers. They don't put out a whole lot. You'll see you can turn them on for 5 and 10 minutes and it'll just barely even get water down to the drain. So it doesn't waste much water. So I probably waste more water just washing it off each day that goes out the drain than what I actually do watering what I got going on.
So you got 45 minutes. That's your time to roll it up and then lay
a new strip down. Yep. And all I do is I come in and I pressure wash it off afterwards, and then I'll lay down new seed. In fact, today I was actually going to demonstrate the seed spreader. I've never done that before because everybody always talk about what I do, but nobody ever usually sees it. So I actually set it up so I could do that here in a minute. Also, what I have on the table is I just took a square out of each one of these things today. So if you guys want to touch, feel, play, it's a little safer to do that than to step over here where it gets damp and wet. It kind of gets slick sometimes, so please be careful if you look too close. But I guess anybody have any questions?
So why 6 days? What's the difference between 5 and 8?
You actually will start losing a little bit of the feed value.
That's what I've always heard.
Yep. And technically this is a sprout. This isn't really even a plant yet. You can't even hardly call it a plant. That's why it does no good to throw fertilizer on this, because it's not going to take it up. It won't utilize it. So, that's kind of my best definition between once it hits about 9 days, that's when it gets old enough that it can actually start digesting and whatnot. So that's the reason that I do it that way. I actually set this pad to right at 70 degrees that I want it, and it really promotes the growth of that seed, because the ground itself will make the floor cold, but by me being able to heat it, it keeps the germination happening and everything going at the right speed. The only piece I haven't added into it yet that I'd like to do is I'd like to put a chiller on it so that in the summertime I can actually run cool water through this instead of hot water, because when this stuff gets about to that 6th day, it's actually putting out a lot of heat. When I pulled that off this morning, the floor was at about 78 degrees underneath of it. So even though the air temperature in here is 70. So the stuff actually heats up and generates heat because of all the energy that it's creating by growing. When I get the building officially up and running, and I have half of it in this stage where it's actually generating heat, I think I'll almost become pretty much energy sufficient just off of the heat that the product's growing, because we've insulated this thing about this thick in this building. We're in basically a giant cooler. And so it doesn't take a lot of heat or utilities to really run the place. In fact, now I've only got these 3 units are the only ones that I have on right now that actually, I think we're holding about 74 degrees in here. It's a little warmer than I wanted, but I was in here this morning working. I had the doors open and everything. But I guess anybody got any more questions?
Where do you get your barley supply from?
Myself. I grow all my own barley. There used to be a barley seed business next door, and they sold wheat and barley and oats and a few different things, but I bought that business, and all I do is operate barley now. So I have a few different varieties of barley, but I have a couple of people that custom grow it for me. I like to put it under irrigation if I can, because it guarantees me that I'll have enough for the next year. So, but
So you turn a pad each day then?
yep, every day. So tomorrow morning this one will come out, the next day that one will come out, so on and so forth. And the name of the thing is, I call it infinity pasture, and it's because really it's an endless loop. It just, as long as you plant it, you'll have endless feed. And the great thing is, middle of winter time, animals are getting nice fresh green grass. I got a lot of cattle customers that buy it, and they sprout the grass, and they do the same thing. A lot of them feed it to their bulls. Say the bulls do a lot better coming out of winter time if they can start feeding this a little bit earlier before they go out on pasture. It just kicks that digestive tract off. Okay, so this is 40% of their diet. So the other part of their diet, that 60%, is just roughage. It's just like a sedan grass or a cane bale, maybe a milo stalk bale, corn stalk bales. I have a little bit of everything out there, but or if I want to kick up the nutrition on it a little bit, I might use some type of grass hay, like a prairie hay or something. But it's mainly just the roughage side that they need. This has all the the protein and the nutrients that they need and the energy. So I can feed just that and that dry hay, and that gives them basically a full, complete meal. So.
Are you raising your sheep on some type of cover then, or are they most of the time in that feedlot?
Most of the time the majority of the time they're actually out on either milo stalks, they're out on pasture, at least the ewes, they're all out there. The lambs stay here year round. They don't ever leave, but from the moment the lamb's born to the time they ship is about a 6-month period. So they'll hit 145 pounds fat in about 6 months. So we don't send anything like that out to pasture, but all the ewes, they constantly cycle between lambing here and out on a field somewhere. As long as we're not in too bad of a drought, you know, I usually have something for them to graze on or eat somewhere. But so this is more of a, but when I do get into drought like we did the last couple of years, this is great to have because this locks in your feed price too. Whatever the price was that I brought the barley in off the field for, then my feed price is locked in till I run out of that seed basically. And really the only variance is the price of the seed that you buy. So that, and the other good thing is it locks in the nutrition on them. It's not like you bought alfalfa from one guy and then you go buy it from another guy and you got 2 different types of quality and molds and all kinds of things. Every day, all day, they'll get the same type of feed, which stability in animals is success.
So you got a rotor mixer that you mix this with all that rough?
Yeah, it's actually the mixer that's sitting right out there, that TMR. So it just gets chopped in. It doesn't even look green once it's all chopped in. It actually chops it in. It kind of comes out more like chunks, but it's the first thing the sheep grab out of the bunk. I will add corn into the mix when they have lambs on them to kick the energy up a little bit more. But even if there's corn in there, they'll still pluck this out before they'll even dig at the corn. So. I have all wool breeds. So I have Merino, I've got Targhee, I've got Rambouillet. I've got Dorset, I have some Finn, I got a little bit of everything kind of, but I stay with the wool breeds. So they're a little bit heavier boned and bigger frame and whatnot. So, but
Barley versus wheat, triticale, rye, or have you experimented with it?
I've done wheat in here. Wheat does the same thing. No difference. The only difference between wheat and barley, and I've looked at quite a bit of research, other places have done it too, but it's usually the amount that you get. A barley will convert, so if I put in a pound of seed, I'll get 7 pounds of feed out. If I do that, and that's with barley. If I do that with wheat, I'll put in a pound of seed and I'll get about 6 pounds out. So just a little bit of difference, but with wheat, sometimes you'll get a little bit more of a boost in protein, so that sometimes might even outweigh it. So, because I've seen wheat get upwards of 18–19%. This is a barley right now, it's probably about 15% protein. So this costs me, so if I take in the price of my building, the insurance, my utilities, and my hour of time that I put in here a day, this runs me about $70 a ton. So, and this would be equivalent to like a dairy grade alfalfa that you might look at, looking at an alfalfa. So you start going $70 versus $250 for a dairy grade alfalfa. For me, it just makes economical sense. That was a big reason why I did it. And it's a big reason why I did it for 8 years, to really prove that the animals do okay and everything. But that cost savings big. I have the biology teacher always brings the high school out here every year, and they walk through and look at this, and he brought up an interesting point. So he told me one day, he's like, so, and he pointed at the kids and he goes, so you're telling me, so under one of these racks will produce 5 tons, 10,000 pounds. So he said, so you're telling me one of these kids could come home from college, they could operate something like this for the farm, $70 a ton versus the farm buying something at $250 a ton, and you take that savings, if you're taking that ton savings times 5, you're saving $500 to $700 a day. So you're saying that they can come back and participate in the farm and not cost the farm any more money? And I said, well, I never really thought about it like that, but I guess, yeah, that you could look at it that way. But just for me, it's just kind of an interesting thought, because nowadays, like kids, they don't like to go out and work hard. They don't like to sweat. They don't like to do things. But you can get a kid to come spend some time in some 70-degree temperature rooms, and this takes me, like I said, about an hour, hour and a half a day, and I can, in that hour and a half, I can clean that out and clean other things, but it really just saves a lot of time and money in the long run. So
That's pretty good hourly pay.
yeah, that's good hourly pay.
If I think that's right, so a finished pad in 7 days will have 1,000 pounds of water on it. If
Yep.
It's 150,
Yep.
and then you recycle.
Yeah, if anything makes it out, it actually just runs outside, like it just goes off into our ditch. But
Do you have to soften the water to?
nope, it's just straight from the well. I don't change anything about the water. The only thing is I have a filter on it. That's the only thing, because these are micro sprinklers, so any sediment or anything, you don't want them getting in there. But it's just straight from the well. I have no fancy pumps or anything. It just straight off the well pressure. So, although there is a regulator on there that just keeps the pressure even, so all the sprayers spray equally. But
So every day you got to lift this whole rack to get your front end loader, skid loader, or whatever.
yeah, I can actually show you that. That was actually another part of the design, was to be able to get in here easy. My old system was a bunch of shelves and racks, and every time a sprinkler would plug in the middle, you had to take the whole thing apart and figure out how to get in there. So I took a regular winch. And so we can go clear to the ceiling. I can come in and clean out and do what I have to do, and then just drop it back down when I'm done. So that unit up there is just a dehumidifier, just since you're spraying lots of water. Definitely is a high humidity environment. But when I say I tried to farmer it, the biggest thing about trying to farmer it was make it simple to fix. You know, you don't want problems. The old box, something would break on it. It was designed out of California. Any piece that I needed, I'd have to call California. Well, it'll be here in 5 or 6 days. Well, you're in a 5 or 6 day process. You can't go without your air conditioning. You can't go without your heating or your water not working properly or something. So everything in here is designed around sprinklers I can buy locally. All the tubing, I can buy it. You can buy it at Home Depot, a lumber yard of any type. I wanted it simple so that a farmer doesn't have time to break down for half the day, you know? I mean, that's just kind of what it is. So the idea is just to keep functioning, huh?
How long have you been doing this process?
In this building for about 1.5 years. I've only had, but I ran for probably a good 6 months just with one rack functioning while I kind of fine-tuned it, decided what sprinklers I wanted, and kind of engineered it, and then I started adding in the other racks. So all 3 of these are designed pretty much to what I like right now, and so going forward, that's probably what I'll keep designing it as. So the water system, I've got it tied to my phone, so I can just kick the water on and off if I want to from my phone. Very simple.
Do the sprinklers need to be at that certain height? Or why not?
Actually, you can go up higher. It's going to start spraying on the walls and stuff. So this is the height that seems like it just gets right out to perfectly where it should be. So if in the future, I might decide that I've got all this space here that is potentially kind of looked at as dead, wasted space. I could come out to here, and I'd probably add about another 1,500 pounds in this rack to 2,000 pounds if I'd come out this far. But all I'd have to do would be raise this up a little bit, and I could get the sprinklers to come on out a little bit further. So. Oh, good question. No, you don't need any light to grow a sprout. But you'll see these are just regular shop lights. There's nothing special about them. They're not grow lights. The only thing that's special about them is they're the white light. They're not the yellow light like that you use in your living room and whatnot. This is more what a grow light would be close to. Simulates spring when barley and wheat and stuff grows. So if you and you can actually, when I took this up in the air, I don't know if you can see, but you see the shadow that hits this? When I take it up in the air, you actually see there's a yellow streak there just because it just doesn't catch the light where that shadow is.
You do germ tests?
Yes, I do germ tests and whatnot. Usually I'm at 98, 99% germination on my seed, so I don't look at it too hard. To be certified seed in the state of Kansas, you only have to have an 85% germination, but right now I just make sure it's good, clean seed, good, viable seed. So.
Your seed that you say you clean that before you plant it?
Yes, I have a seed cleaner, so I'll clean it usually before I put down. There's been times I haven't had it cleaned, so I'll just pull it from the bin and I'll put it down. Usually what you get with that, you might get a little more mold possibly because it's dirty seed, but usually what I just get is a lot more dust. Like out here you'll get like the dirty stuff that comes after the water's hit it, it'll run out the dirty water. But other than that, that's about all I get coming out of it. Let's see, it should be, yeah, it all grows together nice, and so it just goes into the mixer and chops up.
So you're basically
Questions?
tripling the weight in 6 days.
Yep.
Is what you're saying.
Yep, but holds the same protein and nutrition as the seed itself.
But you're getting almost a 50% increase in TDN.
Yep, and TDN, right.
What do you figure your grain cost at per bushel starting out?
I usually, well, like say this year, I paid like $7 a bushel for seed coming off irrigation. So, which isn't bad, but I also could buy some at $4.50. It just kind of it kind of varies. And then I usually throw in $1 for me cleaning it, $1 a bushel. Just kind of put my time into that. So you're probably, I'd say I probably on average in between $6 and $8 by the time I clean it, my cost. So
What do you do with the cleanings then?
feed it to the sheep. So
Does it
that
go in
feeds
that ration?
no, it does. It actually, I usually supplement on when I get into the fall time, like when the grass starts drying up and whatnot. I'll start feeding all my cleanings to the sheep out on pasture to start supplementing the pastures a little bit. So, and that's a good time too because I got a bunch of them that are bred in the fall, so it starts getting some energy into them before they lamb and kicks up milk production and everything. So,
You have totally a ewe production,
the what?
a ewe production,
Yeah.
and then the market lambs that you sell.
Right, right. They, I've talked to a few people that have done research on this, and they claim that by feeding dairy cattle this, I can't think which vitamin it is. It's one of the vitamins that they pay a lot for, but it really increases the value of the milk. And they swore that their system was paid for just by the increase of the value of milk because of the vitamins that this put into the milk, that helped them actually put their system in. So.
Vitamin A, green.
Yep, yeah. This would have a lot of your vitamin A's, A and E. You'd have a lot of both of those.
Are there other people in Kansas that are doing this, or?
Not really. I've pretty much designed this. I've applied for patent on this. I've been working on it for about 2.5 years, and so it's, I mean, sprouts are something that's done, but nobody's really done it in this manner before. So it always seems like it's some type of box unit that they're putting it in or trying to do it that way. But for me, it was all about the farmer because that's what I am, and I wanted to be able to mass produce for a large number of sheep. If you want to put it in cattle terms, this would run about 300 head of cattle, maybe 400 head and their calves in this building. So that would be my 2,000 sheep and their lambs when I talk that way. So.